Have you ever really stopped to think about the journey your food takes? I mean, long before it ever hits a grocery store shelf, it's this incredible, almost invisible symphony of massive machines. Well, today, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at the amazing technology that brings food from a field right to our tables.
You know, when you picture a farm, you might think of a quiet, simple scene. But the reality? Oh, it's a super complex, high-tech operation. So what does it actually take to turn a huge empty field into a sea of golden grain? Let's dive into the machine-driven journey of how our food gets made. So here's the game plan. We're going to follow the entire life of a crop, right from the very beginning. We'll start with how machines create the perfect soil. Then we'll get into the incredible precision of planting and feeding. After that, how tech guards the crop as it grows. And of course, the grand finale, the harvest. And to wrap it all up, we'll take a peek at the robotic farm of the future.
All right, so our story doesn't actually begin with a seed. Nope, it starts with the ground itself. Before a single thing can grow, farmers have to use some serious machinery to create the perfect canvas for planting.
And right at the heart of all of it is this guy, the tractor. I mean, this is the powerhouse of the farm. It's gone from just a basic engine on wheels to a full-on GPS-guided command center. It is the absolute backbone that gives the muscle to pretty much every other machine we're going to see. Now, getting the soil ready is like a carefully choreographed dance. It's not just one step and you're done. First comes the heavy lifting, the plowing. That's followed by harrowing to break everything down. And finally, cultivating, which really refines the soil into a perfect bed for a seed. Each step is absolutely crucial for what's coming next.
So you might think plowing is just about, digging up dirt. But it's so much smarter than that. By turning over that top layer of soil, the plow buries all the old weeds and leftover bits from the last crop. It basically hits the reset button on the entire field, creating a perfectly clean, fresh slate for the new plants.
Okay, so after you plow, the field is all rough and full of these big clumps of dirt. That's where the harrow comes in. And honestly, the best way to think of it is as a giant, super heavy-duty rake. It just gets dragged across the field, breaking up all those clumps and leveling the ground. The whole point is to create this fine, smooth bed, the ideal home for a seed to sprout.
And the level of detail here is just wild. You've got specialized tools like rotavators that just pulverize the soil into a fine powder. Subsoilers are like surgical tools, reaching deep down to break up compacted earth so water can drain properly. And then rollers come in to give the whole thing a final, perfectly smooth press. It's like preparing a Michelin star meal, but for seeds.
All right, our canvas is perfectly prepared. Now it's time for Act 2, putting the seeds in the ground and giving them all the food they need to really thrive.
Planting is definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of job. For a crop like wheat, you want a seed drill. It creates this dense, beautiful carpet of grain. But for something like corn, every single seed needs its own personal space to grow big and strong. That's where a planter comes in, placing each kernel at an exact depth and distance. And that precision? That's the very first step to getting the most out of every single plant.
So, the seeds are in the ground. But now, you've got to keep them happy, and on a massive scale. We're talking giant sprinklers that act like perfectly even rain across hundreds of acres. You've got fertilizer or manure spreaders delivering a super-calibrated diet, making sure every plant gets exactly what it needs. That uniformity is the secret to a consistent, top-quality harvest.
Okay, so our seeds are planted, they're fed, they're watered, but a field is basically a battleground. Now comes the really critical stage, protecting these young plants from all kinds of threats, from weeds to bugs to anything else that wants to eat them.
And this is where these amazing machines called sprayers come in. They're designed to apply what's needed to protect the crop. But this is where modern tech just blows my mind. A lot of these are guided by GPS, which lets them work with pinpoint accuracy. They avoid overlapping, which means not a single drop of chemical is wasted. It's incredibly smart.
So, after months and months of preparing, planting, and protecting, we finally made it. This is the moment everything has been building towards. This is the grand finale, the great harvest.
And for this main event, well, agriculture has an absolute superstar. A single, magnificent machine that can do the work of three, all at the same time. It is the ultimate multitasker.
Meet the Combine Harvester. This thing is basically a factory on wheels. As it rolls through the field, it is a whirlwind of action. First, a big header on the front cuts the crop. Then, inside, a powerful system threshes it. which is just a fancy way of saying it shakes the grain loose from the stalks. And finally, it cleans that grain, blowing away all the useless bits, leaving just the good stuff, the valuable harvest, ready to go.
And even after the combine has done its thing, the work isn't quite over. Some farms might use threshers to get every last bit of grain, and then you'll see balers come through to scoop up all that leftover straw and compress it into those classic, tidy bales you see dotting the fields. See, nothing goes to waste.
So, we've seen the whole incredible journey, from a patch of dirt to a full-on harvest. But as we all know, technology never ever stands still. So let's take a look at the really cutting-edge tools that are shaping the farm of tomorrow, right now. And believe me, the future is getting here way faster than you think. There are already small autonomous robots rolling through fields, using cameras to identify individual weeds and zap them with a tiny laser, leaving the good plants totally untouched. Drones are flying overhead, monitoring crop health with special cameras. This isn't just about saving labor. It's about making smart, data-driven decisions for every single plant in the field. That was pure science fiction just a decade ago.
So what's the big takeaway from all of this? Well, it really boils down to this. From the moment the soil is touched to the final grain being collected, modern farming is this incredibly intricate system. It relies on a huge range of specialized machines, all designed with one single goal in mind: boost efficiency at every single step of the way. And all of this leads to one last, really fascinating question. We've seen the tech of today, which is already pretty amazing, but as it keeps accelerating with AI and robotics, what will the farm of the distant future even look like? Will we have fields tended entirely by swarms of little drones? Giant vertical farms stretching into the sky right in the middle of our cities? It's definitely something to chew on the next time you're walking through the produce aisle.